Hi, welcome to today's special video. Today's Friday, March 27th, which means that not only are you getting a special video today, which is the surprise, you're going to get another one tomorrow, which is the actual one. So, as you can tell by the title of the video down below, we got another federal impeachment to talk about against the current administration. This time, it's against the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, which makes this overall impeachment bill number 9, although you could call it number 8, because the one against Kristi Noem as the Secretary of Homeland Security is now null and void because she resigned on the 5th of March, and her successor was just appointed and confirmed by the Senate earlier this week. But we'll talk about that in tomorrow's technical special video, tomorrow. We'll talk about all that tomorrow. So, let's talk about this impeachment. It was introduced by Congresswoman Summer Lee of Pennsylvania's 12th District. If you would like to read that impeachment, or that I'm about to read to you right now, I will link it in the description below. And if you want to see all the other impeachment bills that I have talked about here on the channel for the current 119th Congress, I have a whole playlist that will also be linked in the description below. And just so you guys know, until we get the next Congress in January, all of the current bills of impeachment are going to remain in the playlist until then, which is when the new Congress takes over, and we'll just completely reset on, everything. So, with that being said, there are 5 articles against Attorney General Pam Bondi, and this is the second one that was brought up against her. Ironically, with one happening just a few weeks ago, actually. But this one was introduced on St. Patrick's Day, so it was exactly 10 days ago, which is why I'm now going over this. Because I haven't got around to actually do this until now. So, with that being said, if you want to follow along, the link's going to be in the description, and let's just jump right into it. So it is known as H.Res 1119, Impeaching Pamela Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Pamela Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America, in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America, against Pamela Bondi, Attorney General of the United States of America, and maintenance and support of his impeachment against her for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, Obstruction of Congress, Defiance of Subpoena. In her conduct of the office of Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi, contrary to her oath faithfully to execute the office of the Attorney General of the United States, and to the best of her ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of her constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has failed without lawful cause or exercise to produce the materials, papers, and things contained in the Jeffrey Epstein files as directed by the duly authorized subpoena issued to the U.S. Department of Justice by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform on August 5th, 2025, and willfully disobeyed such subpoena. The Epstein files contain information related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and was deemed necessary by the committee in order to resolve fundamental factual questions relating to Jeffrey Epstein's ties with political leaders and other influential figures, and to their knowledge of participation in or cover-up of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse, assault, and trafficking of children and women. The Department of Justice refused to adhere to the subpoena and withheld substantial evidence. Evidence logs indicate that amongst the withheld evidence are FBI interviews with a survivor who accuses Trump of sexual abuse. And refusing to produce the whole and unredacted Epstein files and the materials, documents, and other things contained therein, Pamela Bondi, substituting her judgment as to what materials were necessary for the inquiry of Congress, imposed the powers of the Department of Justice against the lawful subpoena of the House of Representatives, thereby assuming to herself functions and judgments necessary to the exercise of powers vested by the Constitution in the House of Representatives. In doing so, Pamela Bondi knowingly and intentionally abused the power of her office to shield individuals named in the Epstein files, such as political leaders and other influential individuals, including Donald J. Trump, from accountability and oversight by Congress. In all of this, Pamela Bondi has acted in a manner contrary to her trust as Attorney General and subversive constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice and the manifest inquiry of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Pamela Bondi, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. Article 2. Obstruction of Congress, defiance of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. In her conduct of the office of Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi, contrary to her oath faithfully to execute the office of Attorney General of the United States, and to the best of her ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of her constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has failed without lawful cause or excuse to adhere to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, EFTA, which was signed into law by November 19th, 2025 by Donald J. Trump after it passed a veto-proof majority of votes in Congress. The EFTA requires Ms. Bondi, as Attorney General, with authority over the Epstein files and control of the U.S. Department of Justice, or DOJ, to produce all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the Department of Justice, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation and United States Attorney's offices, to relate to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and prohibits Ms. Bondi from withholding, delaying, or redacting documents on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. Ms. Bondi refused to adhere to the EFTA's December 19, 2025 statutory deadline for disclosure. The proportionately final trove of documents released by the DOJ in January 2025 contained 3 million pages of documents. Many of these documents were heavily redacted, and the DOJ continues to withhold documents, including communications from and involving Ms. Bondi and other officials within Donald J. Trump's administration. Evidence logs indicate that amongst the withheld evidence are FBI interviews of a survivor who accuses Trump of sexual abuse. But while Ms. Bondi continues to defy the law in a manner that protects political leaders and other influential individuals, including Donald J. Trump himself, she failed to protect the victims. Although the only permissible redactions authorized by the law were intended to protect the victims, Ms. Bondi instead released at least dozens of sensitive documents, including nude photographs and personally identifiable information of Epstein's victims. In refusing to produce the Epstein files and the materials, documents, and other things contained therein, and failing to adhere to the redaction guidance provided by Congress that was intended to facilitate the protection of Epstein's victims, and instead redacting and withholding the documents in such manner as to protect herself, Donald J. Trump, and other influential members or allies of the Trump administration, Pamela Bondi interposed the powers of the Department of Justice against the laws of this country. In doing so, Pamela Bondi knowingly and intentionally abused the power of her office to shield individuals named in the Epstein files, including but not limited to Donald J. Trump, from accountability and oversight by Congress, and demonstrated gross incompetence in failing to protect Epstein's victims. In all of this, Pamela Bondi has acted in a manner contrary to her trust as Attorney General and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice and the manifest inquiry of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Pamela Bondi, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. Article 3. Abuse of investigatory and prosecutorial powers. In her conduct of the Office of Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi, contrary to her oath faithfully to execute the Office of Attorney General of the United States, and to the best of her ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of her constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, as engaged in conduct that impaired the due and proper administration of justice and conduct of lawful inquiries, and has violated the constitutional right of citizens and residents of this country. She has acting personally and through her subordinates and agents, abused the investigatory and prosecutorial powers of the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to pursue partisan interests, to detriment the country, to enable corruption, to protect Donald J. Trump and his allies from oversight and criminal prosecution, to undermine the security and reliability of U.S. elections, and to support his anti-democratic assault on states' rights, protesters, free speech, and immigrants. The means used to implement this course of conduct or plan included one or more of the following, carried out personally and through her subordinates and agents. 1. She terminated without cause the director of the Departmental Ethics Office, who is tasked with overseeing ethics compliance across the Department of Justice. 2. She terminated career public servants in the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for carrying out their duties and fulfilling the obligations of their office as they pertained the investigation and prosecutions that she and Trump disfavor, including investigations and prosecutions into crimes committed by Trump himself, Trump's allies, Jeffrey Epstein, and people who carried out the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. These terminations not only rid these critically important institutions of nonpartisan career public servants, they demonstrated to remaining employees that they would be subject to politically motivated retribution if they carry out their jobs ethnically and in a nonpartisan manner. 3. She has ordered and orchestrated politically motivated and abuse investigations into Trump's political opponents or other individuals disfavored by Trump, including former FBI Director James Comey, New York Attorney General Letitia James, California Senator Adam Schiff, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, and Federal Reserve Board of Governors member Lisa Cook, as well as against 6 members of Congress who made a video that truthfully informed military service members that they do not have to obey unlawful orders. Her baseless indictments against Comey and James were both dismissed, and a grand jury refused to indict the 6 members of Congress. Dozens of high-ranking career prosecutors and investigators have quit rather than pursue baseless and politically motivated investigations. 4. She has closed investigations and dismissed lawsuits and prosecutions into Trump, his allies, and individuals with personal connections to her and others within the Trump administration, including, but not limited to, an investigation into Tom Homan's retention of $50,000 cash from an FBI investigation in 2024, dismissing corruption charges against former New York City Mayor Eric Adams for what the chief prosecutor on the case said in resigning from her position was driven by improper considerations. Dismissing with prejudice a discrimination lawsuit brought by the DOJ against Musk's SpaceX in 2023 for its refusal to hire refugees and people granted asylum in the United States in violation of federal law. Dismissing fraud charges mid-trial against a doctor who was accused of falsifying COVID-19 vaccination cards and destroying government-supplied vaccines. Dismissing charges against defendants represented by her own brother. Dismissing charges against the Boeing company over the 2 passenger jet crashes that killed 346 people in Indonesia and Ethiopia. And ending enforcement of foreign corruption cases, including a long-standing investigation of her own former client, Pfizer. 5. She has abused the power of her office to target and punish journalists in violation of the First Amendment, including by arresting and prosecuting journalist Don Lemon and orchestrating a raid on the home of Washington Post reporter Hannah Natson. 6. She has abused the power of her office to prosecute protesters for engaging in protected speech and acts in protest of the administration's immigration policies, and further has violated the DOJ's own policies by publicly sharing the names and photographs of protesters her office has arrested, which has served an unconstitutional and dangerous chilling effect on the expression of free speech in this country. 7. She is abusing laws intended to protect Americans from domestic terrorism, turn them into mechanisms by which federal law enforcement and the Department of Justice are unlawfully and unconstitutionally targeting, harassing, and prosecuting individuals and organizations who hold viewpoints with which Trump disagrees. She has directed federal law enforcement agencies to define domestic terrorism threat as Antifa-aligned extremists, which in turn she defines as individuals and entities who hold and express ideas with which the Trump administration disagrees, namely extreme viewpoints on immigration, racial gender ideology, and anti-American sentiment. She further has ordered federal law enforcement agencies to create and maintain secret lists of organizations and individuals that perpetually met this criteria, to create hotlines by which people can anonymously report for their anti-Trump ideologies, and to prioritize the tracking, investigation, and prosecution of these entities and individuals, all of which directly undermine the safety and security of American residents and citizens, turn federal resources toward the unlawful surveillance and prosecution of people on the basis of their protected right to beliefs and speech. 8. She orchestrated and carried out a raid on Fulton County's election office and seizing thousands of Fulton County election records, including hundreds of thousands of ballots and other records that contain sensitive voter information, proportionately as part of Trump's scheme to undermine and challenge the 2020 election. 9. She has abused the power of her office to assist Trump in undermining the security and reliability of U.S. elections, including bringing baseless lawsuits demanding that states turn over their voter rolls, demanding that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz turn over the state's voter information in exchange for ending the violent occupation of the city by federal immigration officials, who have already murdered 2 civilians and have injured, threatened, and harassed countless more, and creating memorandums of understandings that require states to surrender control of their voter lists and give the federal government the ability to carry out purges with no mechanism for the state or the voters contest these purges. In all of this, Pamela Bondi has acted in a manner contrary to her trust as Attorney General and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Pamela Bondi, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. Article 4. Dismantling the rule of law through defiance of the courts. In her conduct of the office of Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi, contrary to her oath faithfully to execute the office of Attorney General of the United States, and to the best of her ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of her constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has engaged in conduct that impaired the due and proper administration of justice, usurped the authority of the judiciary, and dismantles the rule of law that governs our country and protects the constitutional rights of its citizens and residents. She has, acting personally and through her subordinates and agents, intentionally and repeatedly defied court orders, acted purposely to evade court oversight, and lied to or misled judges and court administrators. And she has done so to enable Trump to carry out actions, policies, and practices that violate U.S. law, the U.S. Constitution, court orders, and the constitutional rights of citizens and residents. The means used to implement the course of conduct or plan include, but is not limited to, one or more of the following, carried out personally or with through her subordinates and agents. 1. Lying to or withholding information from the courts in making an error-filed presentation of the James Comey indictment. The grand jury disclosed the existence of a memo from prosecutors against the prosecution of James Comey. 2. Withholding information about the applicable law from a magistrate judge to obtain a warrant to search and seize materials from a journalist's home. 3. Misleading a judge about the involvement of senior officials in the decision to bring criminal charges against Kilmar Abrigo Garcia. 4. Presenting demonstrably false allegations in court to support baseless prosecutions against protesters and inaccurately presenting the law to the court. These acts individually and together demonstrate that the Attorney General has defied and usurped the authority afforded by our Constitution to the judiciary and has a dangerous disregard for the Constitution and the careful balance of powers that protects our country from abuses from any single branch. In all of this, Pamela Bondi has acted in a manner contrary to her trust as Attorney General and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Pamela Bondi, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. Last one, I promise. Article 5. Perjury in congressional testimony. In her conduct of the office of Attorney General of the United States, Pamela Bondi, contrary to her oath faithfully to execute the office of Attorney General of the United States, and to the best of her ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of her constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has engaged in conduct that impaired the due and proper administration of justice, usurped the authority of the judiciary, and dismantles the rule of law that governs our country and protects the constitutional rights of its citizens and residents. She has lied to or misled members of Congress after being sworn to tell the truth, and she has done so to enable Trump to carry out actions, policies, and practices that violate U.S. law, the U.S. Constitution, court orders, and the constitutional rights of citizens and residents. This means used to implement the course of conduct or plan include, but are not limited to, one or more of the following carried out personally. 1. On January 15th, 2025, Pamela Bondi swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before the Senate Judiciary Committee on her nomination hearing. Contrary to that oath, Pamela Bondi willfully provided perjurious, false, and misleading testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee concerning one or more of the following: politicizing and weaponizing the DOJ and targeting journalists. Such testimony includes the following. Senator White House question: under what circumstances would you prosecute journalists for what they write? Pamela Bondi answer: I believe in the freedom of speech only if anyone commits a crime. Pamela Bondi answer: if I am Attorney General, I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. 2. On February 11th, 2026, Pamela Bondi swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before the House Judiciary Committee. Contrary to that oath, Pamela Bondi willfully provided perjurious, false, and misleading testimony to the House Judiciary Committee concerning one or more of the following: the nature of Ghislaine Maxwell's detention in the Bureau of Prisons and the evidence against Donald J. Trump in the Epstein investigation. Such testimony includes the following. Representative Ross question: does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment in prison and special privileges in prison? Pamela Bondi answer: I did not know she was being transferred, and she was not transferred to a lower level facility. Representative Liu question: I want to know were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein? Pamela Bondi answer: there is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. These acts individually and together demonstrate the Attorney General has defied and usurped the authority afforded by our Constitution to the judiciary and has a dangerous disregard for the Constitution and the careful balance of powers that protects our country from abuses from every single branch. In all of this, Pamela Bondi has acted in a manner contrary to her trust of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Pamela Bondi, by such conduct, warrants impeachment and trial and removal from office. Okay, so that was the entirety of the impeachment. So, yeah, there's a lot going on in that, I know. But one thing is for certain is that it's up to Congress on if they want to approve it or just let it die. It's all up to them. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. I want to apologize if you hear any children, making noises in the background. Both nephews are, downstairs, and you know how they are. They're kids. They cause a ruckus every once in a while. And yeah, that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you would like to read this, on your own or read along with me as I was reading it, link of it is in the description. And the playlist of every single impeachment that we have talked about against the current administration from the current Congress will also be linked in the description below. So we'll see you tomorrow with our actually scheduled, weekend video. And it's going to be about the current makeup of the federal government, of, Congress, the presidential line of succession, and Supreme Court, like how we always do every 3 months. Yep, it's that time for it. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time in tomorrow's video. And after that, a new episode of my current series. We'll see you then.